Hello, and welcome to Sinister, where we tell you 3 dark and interesting stories a week. If you want to know more about the format of the show, you can check out the video trailer on this channel's homepage. If you like the show, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you always know when a new episode airs. You can also leave a comment with your thoughts on the show or a suggested topic. Thanks again, and enjoy the show. When people think of Thomas Edison, they immediately think of creation. A well-known inventor, Edison developed devices that changed the world, and he developed the first industrial laboratory. Though he did spend most of his time creating, a rivalry in the field of electricity would take him down the path of destruction. A dark time that caused him to instigate pain and suffering in the name of scientific research. Thomas Edison is known as one of the most impactful inventors in American history. Some of his most notable inventions were the light bulb and distribution systems for electricity. That led to what became known as the War of Currents, as Edison was using the direct current system and he wanted to discredit the rival system of alternating current, which was being promoted by George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla. His propaganda efforts ended up involving brutal animal demonstrations and public misinformation about the dangers of his competitors' technology. The most famous of those public displays is the electrocution of Topsy the elephant, but Thomas Edison wasn't actually involved in that act of animal cruelty. Topsy started her life at the Four-Paw Circus, where she gained the reputation as a bad elephant. She killed a drunk spectator who burned her trunk with a lit cigar. Luna Park at Coney Island bought her, but her troubles didn't end there. Her handler, often drunk, abused her. She retaliated against workers who struck her with a pitchfork, so like the story of Murderous Mary, Topsy was condemned to death for simply defending herself. Instead of just finding her a new home or even simply putting her down, Luna Park's owner saw an opportunity. Unlike Edison's calculated animal demonstrations, they planned Topsy's death as a publicity stunt to promote their park's grand opening in May of 1903. Because nothing makes me want to visit an amusement park more than the smell of burning elephant flesh. The park's management wanted to hang Topsy and charged 25 cents admission. John Peter Haynes, president of the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, or the ASPCA, stepped in. He banned hanging as needlessly cruel and stopped them from charging admission. So on January 4th, 1903, the park used a combination of poison, 460 grams of potassium cyanide in carrots, electrocution, and strangulation. That, along with people watching it for free, apparently made it less cruel. Needless to say, Thomas Edison played no direct part in Topsy's death. Workers from the Edison Electric Illuminating Company of Brooklyn handled the electrocution. By then, the company no longer had any ties to Edison. P.D. Sharkey, the chief electrician, oversaw the process using 6,600 volts of alternating current from the Bay Ridge plant, but that was not in an effort to show the dangers of AC current. The War of Currents had ended a full decade before Topsy's execution. Edison had lost control of his company after its 1892 merger into General Electric, and he had sold his GE stock during the 1890s. Topsy's death was recorded by Edison's film company, so his name appeared in the credits, which led reports to claim he was involved. But there was a good reason that Thomas Edison was easily assumed to be involved in electrocution of animals. That's because he had been abusing animals in an effort to discredit AC long before Topsy was executed by the owners of Luna Park. AC systems spread into territories covered by DC systems, and Edison's business faced growing challenges. The rising price of copper added much expense to his low-voltage DC system that needed much heavier copper wires than the higher-voltage AC alternatives. It also helped that AC could send electricity over longer distances without losing much energy, which gave Westinghouse's system a clear technical edge. Edison's own colleagues and engineers asked him to think about using AC technology, but he refused stubbornly. Edison wrote to Edison Electric President Edward Johnson in a November 1886 private letter saying, quote, Just as certain as death, Westinghouse will kill a customer within 6 months after he puts in a system of any size. Harold Brown idolized Edison, and he stepped forward in June of 1888, becoming a vital figure in Edison's anti-AC crusade. He wrote to the New York Post claiming alternating current was, quote, inherently dangerous and damnable. Brown reached out to Edison about running experiments that would prove AC's dangers. Edison jumped at the chance and gave him space and equipment at his West Orange laboratory along with laboratory assistant Arthur Kennelly. Brown staged his first public demonstration at Columbia College on July 30, 1888, to prove his claims. The event drew 700 electricians, government officials, and policymakers. Brown explained the differences between Edison's direct current and Westinghouse's alternating current. He and his assistants then brought in a 76-pound Newfoundland mixed dog onto the stage and secured it in a wooden cage surrounded by wire mesh. They muzzled the dog and attached electrodes to its fore and hind legs. He started by giving the dog direct current shocks that increased from 300 volts to 1,000 volts. The dog yelped and struggled violently, even tearing off its muzzle at one point, but stayed alive. He then switched to alternating current at just 330 volts, which killed the dog on the spot. The Sun reported, quote, the duration of the current was only 5 seconds, but when it was cut off, the troubles of the big black dog were over. Brown ran another demonstration 4 days later to answer critics who said the DC had weakened the first dog. That time he killed 3 more dogs, one after another, using only 300 volts of AC. The experiments grew more extreme as Brown moved on to bigger animals. He killed calves and lame horses with 750 volts of AC. A total of 44 dogs, 6 calves, and 2 horses lost their lives. Those results are what led the Medico-Legal Society to recommend using 1,000 to 1,500 volts of alternating current to execute prisoners with the electric chair. The demonstration horrified many spectators. Some walked out while others yelled for it to stop. The public's reaction turned into significant backlash against Brown's demonstration. Newspapers expressed outrage at the cruel experiments, and the trade magazine The Electrical Engineer criticized the demonstrations as unscientific. Edison tried to keep his distance from those demonstrations publicly, but his involvement ran deep. In fact, he had secretly encouraged Brown to conduct public demonstrations after inviting him to his West Orange laboratory. Edison not only gave Brown equipment and laboratory space, but he also set specific rules for work. He told Brown to keep the experiments secret and work only at night so people wouldn't hear the animals howling in pain. Someone put up a sign near Edison's laboratory that offered 25 cents for each stray dog. Local children brought many strays in, including setters, terriers, St. Bernards, and bulldogs for the experiments. The fact that the dogs were so different made people claim the experiments didn't offer any scientific value. Their purpose was to just kill using alternating current. Witnesses described it as, quote, a litany of suffering. Edison attempted to claim that his animal experiments came from SPCA founder Henry Bergh Jr.'s question about humane ways to euthanize unwanted animals, but many people saw through his statement. The technical advantages of AC proved too strong to ignore. AC's transformers could increase voltage for long-distance transmissions and safely decrease it for home use. That benefit became clear in 1986 when the Niagara Falls hydroelectric plant successfully sent AC electricity 26 miles to Buffalo. Edison Electric saw the writing on the wall and merged with Thomas Houston in 1892 to form General Electric, which adopted AC technology. The pain and suffering inflicted on animals became even more tragic as it had no effect on the growing popularity of AC current. The cruel animal experiments, including Topsy's execution, showed troubling ethical failures in the interest of commercial gain. Edison's team killed dogs, calves, and horses to discredit AC simply because Thomas Edison was too stubborn to accept that his system was inferior to someone else's. At the end of the day, this story is a good reminder that, despite a solid campaign of propaganda, the truth will always come to light. Trying to prove you're right by causing suffering to another life is not something that should give you a positive legacy. Though Thomas Edison created many things that affect us positively today, that shouldn't excuse him of torturing animals due to a childish rivalry. Thanks so much for letting us tell you this sinister story. If you like the show, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you always know when a new episode airs. You can also hit like or leave a comment with your thoughts about the show or a suggestion for an episode. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week where we'll tell you about someone sinister.